Day 93 of doing a LeetCode problem every day until I get a job. All right, guys, we're back again. Another day, another LeetCode problem. This time we're at day 93, guys. Hope y'all are well rested, and I hope you had a good weekend. It's a Sunday, and we're just getting started on some good LeetCode today, guys. Hope y'all have been staying disciplined as well and are still motivated. And if you're not, welcome to the channel. Part of this channel is to help lift each other up when we're feeling burnt out, or lift each other up and encourage each other to stay motivated and stay disciplined so we could learn this LeetCode knowledge over time, guys. We're going to do our daily goals. Our daily goals is to do a LeetCode problem every day, and those daily goals will compound into a larger goal until we understand these LeetCode problems and we know how to do LeetCode with our eyes closed. Right now, we're doing the easy problems. We at the easy array problems so we can strengthen our fundamentals. We already did the LeetCode 75, so we're going back to easy arrays for about a month or two so we can really strengthen our fundamentals and really strengthen our foundation of these problems, and so we can understand what's going on and better understand the code moving forward. Now, before we get started, guys, don't forget, bring a mouse right over here and click that subscribe button for me, guys. Then after you click that subscribe button, go ahead and smash the like button for me, guys. Then after you smash the like button, I'm calling all of my bankers. I repeat, all of my bankers to the comment section right now. Go ahead, drop 2 bank emojis in the comment section. The little bank emoji, you know what I'm saying? It's a emoji of a bank, so we could run this engagement up and we could get this Swift content out to a broader audience, guys, so we could do our part and help build the Swift community and help the Swift community to grow. Right now, the Swift community is still new, it's still budding, it's still an emerging community, but it's all right because that's why we're here, to help it grow, guys. Now, the part you've all been waiting for, the question. And today we have question number 2011, final value of a variable after performing operations. The difficulty level is easy, guys, so you already know we're going to keep the solution as simple and easy to understand because we're all trying to learn, and there's no point in trying to write some code that nobody's going to understand because nothing will be gained from that and no learning will come from that. Now, if you want to understand the code and how to code, the first thing you're going to need to do is understand the question or understand the problem. So let's get to the problem and see what the problem says. It says there's a programming language with only 4 operations and 1 variable x. So right here we have plus plus x, and x plus plus increments the value of variable x by 1. Then we have minus minus x and x minus minus, which decrements the value of variable x by 1. Initially, the value of x is 0. Given an array of strings operations containing a list of operations, return the final value of x after performing the operations. So let's look at the example and break this down. It's pretty self-explanatory, but we're going to go through it anyway because we're all here to help each other, and there may be somebody out there who needs help with this. So we're going to go through it, and so let's see what it says. It says the input operations equals minus minus x, x plus plus, and x plus plus. The output is 1. The explanation says the operations are performed as follows. Initially, x is equal to 0, so we're starting from 0. The first thing we see is minus minus x. So minus minus x, x is now decremented by 1, which means x now equals 0 minus 1, which means x equals negative 1. Because we're starting from 0, this is going to decrement it by 1, so now we're at negative 1, right? And then we come over here, it's x plus plus, right? And x plus plus is going to increment the value by 1. So we're already at negative 1. So x plus plus is going to increment the value by 1, right? So right now, the value is negative 0. It's going to increment it by 1. The value is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is equal to 0. So now the value of x is equal to 0, right? Then we have to call this one more time. We see this operation one more time, x plus plus, so we're going to increment it one more time, x plus plus, x is incremented by 1, so now x is equal to 0 plus 1, which equals to 1, right? So first, and that's the final output, 1, because those are the only 3 operations. So right here, we start at 0. This is going to decrement it by 1. Now we're at negative 1. Then we come over here. It's going to increment it by 1. So now we're at 0. Then it's going to come over here and it's going to increment it by 1 again. So now we're at 1. The final output is 1. So let's look at example 2. It's all the same operations. We have operations, or no, not technically, no, it's not, because we have a plus plus x, we have another plus plus x, and then we have an x plus plus, right? The output is 3 because all three of these increment x by 1. So first thing we're going to do, initially x is 0. Then we see this plus plus x, right? Plus plus x is incremented by 1. 0 plus 1 is going to equal 1. So now we are at 1. Then we see this plus plus x is incremented by 1. So 1 plus 1 equals 2. So now we're at 2. But then we have this again, or not again, but this is another increment by 1. We have to increment it by 1 again with the x plus plus, and the x plus plus x is incremented by 1. So we're already at 2, and 2 plus 1 equals 3. So the output is 3. So we start at 0, incremented by 1, we're at 1, incremented by 1 again, we're at 2, and incremented by 1 again, now we're at 3. That's why the final output is 3. So let's look at example 3 with the input operations x plus x plus x minus x and x minus minus. Right here we have all 4 operations and the output is 0 because, the operations are performed as follows. Initially, x equals 0, so we're starting at 0. The first thing we see is x plus plus. So we know x plus plus, x is incremented by 1, and 0 plus 1 equals 1. So now we're at 1, right? Then we see this. We know this is going to increment x is incremented by 1 again. So now it's 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, right? So we go, we incremented by 1, then we incremented by 1 again. Now we're at 2. Now we see this operation, minus minus x. Now minus minus x is decremented by 1, right? So x is already equal to 2, x is already equal to 2. We're about to decrement it by 1. So now x is equal to 2 minus 1, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So now we're at 1. Then we see this operation. Which is going to decrement x again by 1. So 1 is going to be decremented by 1 again. And now x already equals 1, and 1 minus 1 equals 0. So the final output is 0. So what it's doing is it's incremented by 1. Now we're at 1. Then increments by 1 again. Now we're at 2. Now we come over here, it decrements by 1, so now we're back at 1. Then we come over here, decrements by 1 again. Now we're back at 0. The final output is 0. So now that we understand the code, let's get into now that we understand the problem, let's get into the code and see how we're going to find a solution to this problem. So the first thing we are going to do, we are going to declare a variable called sum, and we are going to set that equal to 0, and that's going to represent x, which is initially, x is initially 0, so we're going to set sum as 0, and that's going to represent our starting point right there. Then we're going to come over here and we are going to say for I in operations, 1P, sorry about that, operations. Then we're going to come down here, we're going to say I is equal to, then we're going to say plus plus x, right? And what this is basically going to return a Boolean. So basically it's saying I is equal to plus plus plus, if that's true. Then we're going to come over here, we're going to say or I equals x plus plus, x plus plus. So we're going to come over here and we are going to put a question mark. Then we are going to say, open up the parentheses, we're going to say sum plus equals 1. So what this right here says is, it basically says, without the if statements, it says if I equals plus plus x or I equals x plus plus, then sum equals plus equals 1. So if either of these are true, if this is true, remember this is a Boolean, so it's checking to see if this is true. So if this is true or if this is true, then what we're going to do, the question marks, represents, then what we are going to do is we're going to increment sum by 1. Then we're going to come over here and we are going to put the colons and we're going to say sum minus equals 1. So what this is saying is, if this is true, if I equals plus plus x or I equals x plus plus, then we are going to add sum. We are going to add 1 to sum. We're going to increment sum by 1. But if it's not true, then we're going to say sum minus equals 1. And that's what this represents when dealing with these and these. And this question mark basically says, is letting us know if this is true, then we're going to increment it by 1. But if it's not true, then we're going to decrement it by 1. Then we're just going to come down here and we are going to say, we're going to say return sum. And that's all she wrote, guys. Let's run it and see how it runs. Not too bad, not too hard to understand at all. Okay, and it's accepted, so let's submit it, see how it goes. Fingers crossed, and there it is. 19 milliseconds beats 50% of users with Swift, guys. That's what I like to see, and I also like to see you guys here tomorrow and I would also like to see you guys here tomorrow for another day, another LeetCode problem. See you then.